The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Friday in a Riv, and a hectic Friday. A lot of things been going on, CJ.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I heard there was another leak from the police department. Did you hear that one?
A lot of leaks from the police department.
Well, supposedly, I got a call this morning. I don't know. And like I said, this is a Class C rumor. Maybe C plus, because it hasn't been corroborated by multiple sources. But I think we got to mention it with all the things going on. Supposedly, there was an internal investigation document that was leaked. Did you hear that?
I heard that there was a memo that was leaked.
Yeah,
yes.
Memo, yeah. Yep. So it could have been. Yeah, I mean, you know how things get. Specifics get a little twisted when it's
right.
It's rumor.
Right.
But there are a lot of things going on over there. A lot of finger pointing too. A
lot of shenanigans.
We know who does this a lot. And So now I guess this supposedly the mayor was on. You say calling for a state police investigation.
No, the mayor wasn't on asking for that. His minions were on.
Oh, his minions. Okay.
They want a state police investigation into Cliff Ponte and Michelle Dion because they're claiming that Cliff Ponte and Michelle Dion started this rumor for political reasons.
Oh, of course, it's politics. So the minions, he's using the minions to push it, which is a normal political tactic.
Right.
What are the same minions? Did they call for a state police investigation into the superintendent of schools?
No.
Did they call for a state police investigation into the misappropriation of DCM funds?
Nope.
No. Did they call for an investigation into all the other things that has happened, in the city? Did they actually call for an investigation into the police chief's actions for going by himself to take records out of somebody's house? Did they call for a state police investigation?
No, they didn't. But here's something about that. And the chief said this. The chief was interviewed on two different sources. And the chief said that if the mayor wanted a state police investigation, he has no problem with doing that. But the mayor has not decided to do that, or the mayor has refused to do that, one or the other.
Maybe he recused himself.
Oh, yeah, or maybe he recused himself from it. You never know. But what's interesting is that the chief in his interviews said there was no drugs in that box that he brought back to the police station. It was just files. So it's interesting to see how the stories keep changing from different sources and different locations, which is normal. Which is in political times, it's normal.
Well, you're in any time. You're right, because there's always two stories. But see, what the only thing that bothers me about this situation is I understand. The police chief, I've met him. He seems to be a really nice guy. But the fact is that there is. With that job comes the obligation to basically follow protocols and rules. We know that in a previous investigation by a former police chief, they said rules and policies were violated. Now, I don't know about this situation. I can be perfect. Sometimes there are a lot of judgment calls, and something. As far as I'm concerned, you can't really second guess a judgment call because it's an error of commission. Many times public safety people are put in positions where they have to make an instantaneous decision and they make it. And it may not have been the best course of action when you look at it and do a post critique, but this wasn't one of those situations. I'm not sure if and I'm just going to say from my position, and I'm not sure if it was the smartest thing in the world with all the things that are going on and have gone on in the police department for the chief to personally go pick up documents, because we don't know, and he didn't, and I believe he admitted he had no idea what was in those boxes, correct?
Correct.
So I don't know if I was the chief, I would have gone and picked up documents without somebody there to catalog everything. And in the event there are people who say, well, something could have been removed, there may have been something in there, and blah, blah. As a matter of fact, this is my personal opinion. If I was the chief, and I was a chief, and I had situations where we had things where it could have been evidence, and we had, things that could have been crime scenes. Whenever there's a fatality, it could always be a crime scene to cover up stuff. And I had to handle evidence that you have to testify to in court. I don't think I would have gone by myself to secure it. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't have gone at all. I would have sent someone from maybe professional standards or a shift commander with someone else to basically say, okay, this is what we did. We, the two of us picked it up. We did not touch anything in the box. We brought it to the station. Then we emptied the contents of the box, and we cataloged everything in the box to ensure that there were no documents that were sensitive and should not have left police custody. And then everybody would have said, okay. But doing it the way he did it leaves himself open to speculation. And I don't think that was, that to me, that was not really the best way to handle a situation. But that's my personal opinion.
Yeah. The chief said that he went to Laura Washington's house, and it's her ex-husband who was the police officer. And Laura Washington is a candidate for city council. And picked up the box from the house, or boxes from the house, put them in his car, and drove them to the station. And he said it seemed that there was a mold type smell coming from the boxes into the vehicle. He also said that the way these boxes looked, it looked like somebody had emptied out their desk, like they were transferring or leaving or whatever, and put it in a box and just took it all with them. So any number one of those things is possible. I'm not gonna call it out and say it's not.
But therein lies the problem. I've had to testify in court. And any lawyer, if he gave him that scenario, would have said, did anybody else witness the handling of that box from the time you picked it up to the time you got into the station? How it smelled and how it looked had nothing to do with its contents.
Right.
If I was cross-examining the chief in court, he's got a problem. This is why, and he should know, obviously, he's a police officer. I know he's gone to court 100,000 times probably in his career. And he knows the way you get cross-examined in a court. I've been cross-examined. And lawyers will try every conceivable thing. So that, I'm not sure that the chain of custody and stuff in a situation, especially in light of the fact with the problems that we've had in the police department right now. And I know he's saying there's a small bunch of people who are out after him. And I would probably say, from my experience, that's true.
According to one of our viewers, which just commented on our YouTube feed, the chief did not go alone. So I'm not sure. And thank you, Doreen, for that information. I'm not sure if the chief said he didn't go alone. I'm not sure about that at all. I mean, I listened to his interviews. I don't remember him saying that he didn't go alone. But I mean, if one of our viewers says he didn't, it's quite possible he didn't.
Well, if he didn't, that's,
that was a smart move.
If he didn't, he's got a witness to that. But then again, like I said, I would have sent somebody whose job it is to do that stuff. I would have sent professional standards or somebody like that. I understand this, that, that there's probably they probably know each other. And I know that, I know that situation, but the fact is that, there are, you have to look at what's going on. As I said, there's a bunch of people that are out after him, but something, I spent 38 years in a fire department. I went through a whole bunch of chiefs of the department, and every time a new chief got appointed, there were a bunch of people who didn't want that particular guy to become chief. They wanted somebody else to become chief, and they were not happy, and they took every opportunity to try to make the guy look bad. So I can tell you right now, with what he's saying about that, I have absolutely no doubt that's true. But that is a commonplace occurrence,
right? And the chief did say that he understands that there is some morale problems in the police department, and he also understands that there are some problems in his upper echelon of officers. But he's trying to work those problems out. But he doesn't want the department or his reputation disparaged in any way. And he's above board and transparent in how he handles this. And I got to give him a credit, because when he was called and asked for an interview by Gene St. Pierre, he got it right. Almost immediately after WSAR interviewed him, Gene got his. So he's not afraid to address the press. He's not afraid to address the issues, which is more than I can say for our administration. But
no, you're right. And listen, I had a long conversation with him right after he took over, and he seems like a very, very ethical guy. He was very, very straightforward in our conversations. So, and look, as I said, there were always issues in every department, where, especially ones with quasi-military, but every place, whoever becomes the supervisor, somebody else wanted somebody to be the supervisor or the chief of the department. And there's always this stuff, and sometimes it lasts forever because their guy didn't get it. But the only advantage that police departments and fire departments have is that number one, they're quasi-military. They have a rank structure. And I'm sure that Chief Cardoza will get the house in order, because the fact is, listen, both of those jobs, and I always said this, and a lot of people forget this, those jobs are not social clubs. They're jobs. You're employed. And, there are people working in mills that don't like their supervisor. And the fact is that because the guy that you didn't want to be chief didn't get the job, you still have to do your job. And those offices are offices, and there are rules and regulations. And all you got to do is, you don't have to like the people you work with. You don't have to like the chief. But I'm sure that the chief will hold everybody to compliance with the rules and regulations. And that's what his job is. So there in no way do we want to disparage anybody, but there's just a whole bunch of questions out there. And again, we get back to the core issue that this mayor will never, ever deal with things in a manner that's transparent. Now, the chief said he's willing to do anything, and that doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me. He's a pretty forthcoming guy. What disturbs me is this all gets back to the guy on the 6th floor.
Right.
Who will never, ever go into detail or discuss something with the general public. And that encourages and enables all this rumor, finger pointing, and second guessing. And, I hope somebody confirms that. And thank you, Doreen, for that comment. We'll check into it. And I can guarantee you, if he had somebody with him, that's a, I would think he would. I mean, if I had to guess, I probably would say he obviously he's competent enough to become the police chief. He probably, he probably did bring somebody with him, knowing that things like this, questions would always be raised when a single individual handles stuff. Because, as I said, doesn't matter how the box smelled, doesn't matter. Nobody knows what kind of police records are in there. And as we just talked about at the beginning of the show, there's been an internal document leaked or a memo or whatever you want to call it. And that's wrong on any standard. I'm sorry. That's, we know this happens, but it shouldn't happen.
True. And it gets to be, interesting that so far the only department that's having any major issues is, or I shouldn't say is, the focus is on the police department with major issues. We're not looking at DCM. We're not looking at the water or sewer department. We're looking at the police department. We're not even looking at the fire department. And there's, and I remember when Chief Lynch took over at the fire department, all of a sudden the rumor mill started immediately. He's dating this one. He's going to the bars with that one. He's smoking cigars with this one. He's doing this and this and this and this. He got into a car accident and he hit it from the city. I mean, there's all kinds of rumors, and that was fine. We were used to hearing that from people who are, as you said, are not supporters of the new regime. The problem is that when you start hearing that or seeing memos that are being leaked, documents that are being leaked, and you're saying that those documents are being leaked by Council President Cliff Ponte and City Councilor Michelle Dion, and you want them investigated by the state police for it, where's your head? Where did they get the document? They got if it was them, they got the document from somebody in the police department. Yeah. If it wasn't them, why blame them? And shouldn't the investigation to where that document came from start with the chief? Yes. And he said the same thing. It starts with him.
Yeah, no, you're right. And did those minions demand an investigation of all Cliff Ponte's employees to find out who leaked the memo?
Right.
That's one of the foundations of Coogan's campaign. Did anybody say why did they leak that internal document? No. This is all about politics. And, they can point fingers and say it's political on their time, but then somebody could spin it and say, well, something, maybe it came from the Coogan camp. Maybe Coogan's people leaked the document and want to blame it on Cliff Ponte and Michelle Dion. That's the problem with rumor and innuendo. You can't prove it.
Right.
That's why we need transparency, and we need, as far as I'm concerned, if they ever find out who leaks any of these documents, they should be terminated. I mean, the city's got to take a position, and the mayor should be making a comment about leaks from any department and all this kind of stuff, because we all know that. Like you said, we saw the allegations when Lynch took over. We saw allegations when anybody gets a job. We saw finger pointing when the DCM director got appointed. People sent letters about people working in the DCM to city councilors and every other thing. And something, the problem is if you don't have proof and stuff, people should not be leaking documents. I mean, if you want to say, I think this guy did this, and if you want to be a little rat, go ahead, be a rat. If you want to point out something, obviously, if there's a crime committed, you should talk about it. But if you just want to do this to disrupt things, you're being petty and political. But that's what politicians do in a campaign like this, where that you can't run on your record. You're like Gavin Newsom. All you do is say, the other guy's terrible. Vote for me. So it's like, hey, that's the way it is. And it's too bad. And the fact that we spent nearly 20 minutes on this based on leaked documents and innuendo is, again, not caused by the police chief because he went on Gene's show. He's gone. It's because there's a lack of transparency or any kind of comment from the mayor.
Right.
Ever on anything. Exactly.
I have something to say, and this is probably something you already know about. I want to send my sympathies out to the Tibitot family. They lost another family member. Chief David L. Tibitot passed away. When I had Low Price Lenny's funeral that I went to, and we actually took a day off of that show. Mark Tibitat's funeral was the day before, and this is Mark's brother. And this was a chief you worked under, correct, Chip?
Yeah. I worked with and I worked with him as he came up through the ranks, and when he became chief, he was only there for, I think, for 3 years.
Right.
But yeah, I worked with Dave. I worked with Mark, obviously, for virtually my entire career, and they're into most of their careers. I think Mark was on before me. Dave came on after me, but I worked with both of them. And Mark was a captain. Dave became chief of the department, and I worked with both of them. My condolences also go out to the family because I worked with them for a very, very long time, and it's a tragedy when you lose someone anyway. But when you lose two brothers that close together, it's difficult, and obviously we should keep them all in our thoughts. So
right, and he was only 69 years old. I mean, some people may think that's old, but other people don't. People are living to 80, 90, and 100 years old now. So hell, there's a woman who's still doing lobster fishing at 101. So I mean,
yeah, that's the problem. When you're 20, you think people that are 30 are old.
Right, exactly.
So
I remember being 20, and yes, I thought my life ended when I turned 30.
Yeah, when you're 20, you think somebody that's 69 is Methuselah.
Right.
But it's
right.
like, yeah, but it's like I said, unfortunately, it was a fairly, he was a, by today's standards, he should have had, a lot longer. But hey, that's the problem. That's why you've got the old saying, it's not, how long you live, it's how you live.
Right.
And, David and Mark both, served this city with distinction, and they went to work every day in a job where you didn't know if you were going to come home at night. So they have to, you have to, realize that they went above and beyond what the average person did. They had a career and an occupation that required them to basically go to a place where they didn't know if they were coming home every day.
Right, and I mean, I have a lot of, I'm trying to think of the word, a lot of support and a lot of pride in our police department and our fire department. They are heroes because they, like you said, every day they go to work and they don't know if they're coming home.
Yeah.
They don't know if they're coming home.
I think that's an extremely important point, CJ, because listen, no matter how much controversy there is in those jobs, and people like to use that to disparage the job. Look, there are bad people who don't abide by the rules everywhere. DCM, IBM, fire, police, but those are individuals. But the behavior of the rank and file, the police officers and firefighters who go in every day and go to a fire station or get in a police car and go out and put their lives on the line. And many of it, I had the unfortunate, duty to bury 5 of my brothers on the Fall River Fire Department who died in the line of duty while I was an active firefighter. So we had 5 people whose names are on that monument. I also marched behind the processions for the police officers who died in the line of duty. And that's something that's lost. I mean, I don't care. You can say, well, there's a little bit of confusion over there, but that's the underlying thing. You got to remember that you have to understand that police officers and firefighters are there every day, and police officers are going out in the street every day, no matter what's happening as far as internally and all the politics. They're still putting on that gun belt and walking out into the streets of Fall River every single day. And the firefighters are getting on the trucks, going to something that they may not come back from. And you can't forget that. That is the bottom line. and you have to extend your respect. And if you don't, you're a piece of crap. I'm sorry.
As I said, I have a great deal of respect for those people. And again, one of the things that we do notice is that while at times the representation of the rank and file and of the officers in the fire department become political, the department itself and the rank and file, even though they may not like the guy who became mayor, or they may like the guy who became mayor, they still do their job, regardless of who is at the top on the 6th floor. So,
yeah, if you go back and read a letter I wrote when somebody became chief that should have been chief, we know who that was.
mm-hmm.
And I said that regardless of who the chief was, the members of the Fall River Fire Department would answer the calls. And that's the key element. And the police officers will answer the calls. And you never forget that, because people tend to forget that and point fingers all the time. But I'll tell you one thing. I never saw somebody hanging out a window or somebody that needed a police officer condemn the police. They were screaming for help. And the thing was that the police and the firefighters responded.
You know, it's an interesting thing you brought up, because as you know, you actually saved one of my family members. I mean, you were at that scene and you actually did the work. And again, like you said, when people need the help, they call. But sometimes those same people are the ones that say, they're no good. They're no good. So
exactly. And that's the key. The key is that's the key. That firefighters and police officers always answer the call. And you can't forget that.
Right. You can't. And I mean, while I agree that, we need more public safety officials, we need more police, we need more fire. We also have to look at the numbers on where they're going and what we already have. Because again, like the school department, if it has 90% of the employees in administrative positions, there's a problem. I don't think that's the problem in the police or fire department. But again, if you have too many administrators, you got a problem. Because as they say, everyone wants to be a chief. Nobody wants to be an Indian.
True.
And that does create a problem for you. It really does. And it's sad, but it's true. So I think one of the things that we have to be aware of is that these reports that are being done on the police department by a former police chief were clear, and they pointed out some areas that need improvement. And I firmly believe that this chief will improve those areas. So it'll be interesting to see. Just another little tidbit of nice information. Last night, Carlos Cesar, president of the Flint Neighborhood Association, made it very clear that his endorsement of City Council President Cliff Ponte for mayor has nothing to do with his organization. He wanted to make that clear. But he does believe, he says, please join me with your support to elect Cliff Ponte as the new mayor. He will work to cut costs, stop our taxes from going up, and lead our city as a competent merchant he is. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. But he has a full posting on Facebook, both in English and in Portuguese. So it will be interesting. Is your alarm going off?
Yeah, that's my phone ringing incessantly. I was going to run out there, but we only got a few seconds left.
We only got a few seconds left.
I apologize for the distraction, but by the time I get there, that's my house. And by the time I get there, the show will be over. So
All right. Well, enough of that. Thank you for watching, everybody. Have a safe weekend, and remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. Thanks for watching.